We're kind of relying on you to try and decide what do you think are going to be the priorities. Now, I'm not just going to throw you to the wolves and say, okay, go ahead, figure out what you're going to do. I put together a little document that'll help us work through, and all of the pastoral council members are going to be working with everybody so that you can come up with what you think, because we're relying on your expertise on what really needs to be done and said at these various sessions. So if you look at the part where it says tasks for the liaison, guess what? That's your name. If you didn't already figure it out, if you're here and you're not a pastoral council member, you are a liaison. We had to come up with some kind of a name, so we figured that sounded good. So that's what you are. So prior to whatever session that you are helping with, we have we've got things that we would like you to do. So the first thing it says, get your day captain and facilitator's contact information. So on the chart that you have on the back of the page, you find whatever session that you're supposed to be going to. At the top of that column is the person on pastoral council who is in charge of that day. So, for instance, the Children's Liturgy of the Word, all right? That's Thursday, that's Kim. You've probably been contacted either by Sister Jackie or one of those people that are part of that group. So if you've got questions or problems, that's a person that you need to get to. So before the end of the night today, make sure that you have their email or phone number so that you can get a hold of them. And on your planning sheet, you'll have a place to put that down. All right, so the next thing is get the roster. I have them, thanks to my husband there, who has put together a database and printed out all these. This is what we had as of last Monday when we went through all the documents. These are the people who have signed up. Either they're currently in the ministry, or they're interested in adding to it, or if it's one of the special projects, they said, I'm coming. So this is wide open. We are allowing people to continue to sign up. Apparently they have, because I got some more in our folders today, so people have been dropping them off or they left them. We have a basket in the narthex. We're making cantor announcements so that it's in the bulletin for the next couple of weeks. We're going to let them sign up until the day of the event, because we don't want any kind of cutoff. If you're going to volunteer, we don't care when you volunteer. The idea of having them sign up in advance was to help the people who are conducting the session to know whether I have 5 people or 50. And so that was the only reason that we wanted them as soon as we did. So we'll give you the current roster so that you know who to expect. For those of you that are already involved, that have people in a current ministry, you can look and see these are the ones that are already involved. These are the only couple that are new, so that you know the difference between those. Then it says the next couple. Determine priorities, establish best practices, plan something hands-on. What we want in the session is once the people come in and you talk to them and everybody welcomes and you open in prayer, that now we have a session that works for them so that they know what's going on, and I don't know what they need. And so that's what I'm hoping that you can do. If you can sit down and say, okay, whatever ministry or thing it is, what are some of the things that everybody should know? Or what are the things that are, this, if you know this, you're well on the road to success. Or these are the things that are constant or chronic problems or issues, and you need to know what those are. And so if we can come up with those kind of lists for your individual ministry, those are the things that we want to convey. Sister Jackie and I have talked a couple of times. As far as like the liturgical ministries, we can't have a training for Eucharistic ministers in a half an hour. It's just not going to work, and that's not our intention. We want them to see what this is about and then make a decision on whether or not they want to get involved. And so what's going to tempt them to get involved and stay involved? So those are the kind of things that we want to think about. And then nobody wants to sit and listen to a half an hour meeting. As wonderful a speaker as I am, I'm sure you'll be glad when I'm done in 10 minutes. Nobody wants to sit there and listen to you talk, and I don't want you to think that you have to sit down and talk to people for a half an hour. That's not what we want. Get them up and doing something. So if it's the ushers, we're going to stand them up and say, this is how you pass the basket. Or if you're the Eucharistic minister, this is where you need to stand on the altar. Or if you're a lector, stand up there behind the ambo and see what it feels like. Whatever you think would be helpful and encouraging and interesting, fun, engaging, whatever it is, so that people will go, yeah, that was all right. I think I can do this. This is good. That was valuable. Not a lesson, not a training, not a lecture, not a prayer service, none of those kind of things. What we want them to do, and if you're done in 10 minutes, say, anybody have any questions? No? Thank you for coming, and we'll be in touch with you. And nobody has to say, oh, well, what am I going to do for the next 10 minutes? I'm supposed to keep them here until 6:30. You don't have to. I mean, if you're done the whole thing in 15 or 20 minutes, that's all they need, then that's fine. What we want them to do is go out thinking, I can do this. This wasn't that big of a deal. Whatever you think about as far as what you're going to do, we need to think about what kind of supplies we need. Is there something that we already have? Do we need copies? Do we need to get stuff here? And how do we get it? What do we need? When do you need it? Like, are you going to need pencils? Are you going to need, copies of something? Are you going to need, I don't know what. I mean, Ed, if we're cleaning, what do we need? Do we need to tell the people to bring things? Do we need rags? Do we need mops? Do we need shovels? Whatever. And we need to come up with a list with those kind of things. You're going to have, the only big thing is contacting the participants. Any of the people that are on your list, we would like you to get a hold of them as a reminder. And I thank you for signing up, and don't forget, we want you to come. And here's a reminder of when the session is. It's going to be in the bulletin, but as Father can attest, lots of people walk out the door without it. We'll put it on the website because I know somebody who has access occasionally to the website. When it's having a good day, it lets him on. So we'll put the calendar and those things there, but a personal phone call or an email from you that says, thanks for signing up, and I really appreciate it, and don't forget you're going to be here for half an hour on Thursday night, is going to go a whole lot further than just the people signing up. One of the things, and parish council people can attest to this, one of the things that is most people complain about or say that the reason why they don't get involved is that they volunteer and then they never get called. And they said, oh, I told somebody I'd be interested in doing that and I never heard from anyone. And that's the biggest letdown, because then people go, well, I guess they don't really need me or they don't want me. And then they start second guessing themselves. So if we can get a hold of them and say, hey, we are so glad to see that you signed up, and we'll see you Wednesday night or Tuesday night or whatever night it is, that'll be wonderful. You're going to have to check for additions to the roster. If I can get my technical guru to, figure out a way that he can send you additions or whatever, that's fine. But we'll put a list together. So at the very, very least, check in the night that you arrive. I'll be here every day. And so just check in and say, is there an updated list? Because there may be changes to the one. Obviously, we've already got half a dozen more. There'll be other people that may show up for anybody who really needs to know the numbers that are there. What we need to do before the end of the day is we need to think about scheduling a date and a procedure for follow-up. Some of the things aren't going to need follow-up unless Ed wants a permanent cleanup crew he's going to meet every couple of months. Then you're probably not going to need anything. If the ushers don't need to meet again, other than to get the new people on board, then all we need is a time scheduled for follow-up. Now, anybody who's going to need clearances, we want to make sure that we have something already set up in place. We want a meeting where they can come, and no matter what they're going to join, that will help you walk through the paperwork. But if you need something specific, like a training session, any of the liturgical ministries, we need to have a date and a time, so that when we go to that session, we can say, you are going to come back again on such and such a day. This is the training session, and this is how we'll get you on the list, so that we can tell them. Ushers, maybe the turnaround is a whole lot quicker. The liturgical ministries, maybe you want to wait another 2 months before we have a training, but we need to have established that before we go any further. All right, so back side of the page. What does the session itself look like? When you are there the night of your session, main thing is facilitating the welcome. Make sure that if it's not you, there's somebody else, depending on the group, that you are greeting every single person that comes in and having them put on a name tag and introduce yourself, and so that they talk. If you have people who are already involved in the ministry, then have them do it instead of you. If there's other people that are there, just make sure that they greet, because it shouldn't be you. That's what we want the current ministry people to do. All right, so all the altar servers, they may not know each other's names, but they've been doing it before. They should say, hey, I've seen you before, my name's Joy, and who are you? All right, that's what we want. We want the people that are involved. Same thing with the opening prayer. We have one that we've been using. It's very brief. You decide. You want to read it aloud and you do it. You can hand it off to somebody else and have them read it. You can make copies and have everybody read it. You just need to decide how you want to do that. As far as anybody who is a current ministry member, you want to acknowledge them as somebody who's already done it. Maybe you decide that you want to say, have everyone introduce themselves and say how long they've been doing it, or why they've done it, or however. But make sure that we honor their commitment. And that's something that we want to say, hey, thanks for doing it. I'm glad you're here tonight, and so forth. Then the rest of the part is explaining whatever the ministry is. That should be brief, just so that they know exactly what they're getting involved in. Then conducting whatever kind of activity you want to have, your hands-on activity, and you base that on whatever you want. What do you think should be everything somebody should know on their own if they've now decided that they can't do it or they need time off. So we're just assuming anybody who's already in these positions will continue to do so. But anybody new, we want to make sure that we have asked them flat out, do you want to continue? And if they say yes, great. We check them off and then we move on. Make sure then you announce whatever the date and time is for completing the enrollment process. Telling them when we're going to have a meeting for helping them complete their paperwork, and when you're going to have an additional training, or if we have a need for them in the future. Even if we don't have a date, say for instance the church cleanup goes really well and it says, people really got into this is really great. Then just end with, we're going to do this twice a year, or 3 times a year, or whatever, and is it okay if we get a hold of you again? And they go, yeah, then we can just check those off and say that we have a starting point for the future. For anybody who has something that we really need a commitment from them, like children's liturgy of the word, you go all year long.
Yes.
All summer. So that might be even harder to keep people involved. So maybe we want to get them up and running so that they can be substitutes or fill-ins right away. Faith formation, they're going to disband and they're not going to start again until the fall. So those kind of people, maybe we just say, hey, we're going to have a training for you in August. We don't have to do something right away. So we have to make decisions, but you have to tell them what they need to do going forward. All right? So how are we going to do this? Well, I hope this helps. You can tell I'm a teacher, so what I have, I created something for you to work from. All right, and that's where, and I'm going to just all assign you something.
This will be collected and graded later. So.
I can't help it. It comes out naturally. We just need one for each. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, Maureen, yeah. Okay, so the first thing.
I went up.
Well, yeah, you and Mike could work together, so. Okay, so the first thing is you're putting your name on it. Then what session day? So are you here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever? Then what your time is and your location, and that's on your chart. So you already have that in there. Then there's a place for you to figure out when you think the follow-up session is going to be, time and location. Don't worry about that right this second, because we're going to have a pastoral council person working with everybody to help figure that out. So it's not like we're going to leave you hanging. All right, so then there's a place for your day captain's contact information. So who's ever on the top of that column, you can put their name and phone number and email address in there. Then, number of participants, I'm gonna give you a roster. It'll tell you how many people have signed up as of today. We've got other ones. And then there's a place where it says number of participants as of the session date. So as we get updates and we let you know, you can be able to add additional people. Now, here's where we need you to figure it out. What are the top session priorities? Now, liturgical ministries, Sister Jackie is going to be a valuable resource because she can tell you what do you think those top things should be. But like Ed, we're going to have to, I have no idea what the top priorities are for the cleaning, and you two are going to have to figure out what we're doing with the ground. So if you go outside, you can wander around on the parking lot, I guess, and see what you think. But that's where we need best practices and our, what do you think needs to be included? What do we need to talk about? As far as needs are, just a list of what you think physically we need as far as table setup. So if you're having a session and you need people to sit someplace, or do we need copies? Do you need pencils? Whatever it is. Are you going to be able to figure all of this stuff out right this minute? Maybe not, but you're taking this with you. Right? I'm not collecting it back. All right. The next page where it says during the session, there's a place that has blanks. Use it however you want. Welcome. You can write in who's going to do it, or you can write in what you're going to say. Doesn't make any difference. However you want to use that for you. There's the opening prayer. So if you want copies of that made, then you need to make sure that you let your day captain know that you need 20 copies, and they'll get a hold of Rose, or you're just going to read this yourself or hand it to somebody else. That's fine. This is the prayer that we want to use at all of the sessions. All right? What do you want to do about recognizing current ministry members? That's an area for you. Put in whatever you want. Ministry explanation. Right? Do you want to write it in there? Do you want to just put notes down? Do you want to write down the name of whoever's going to explain? However you want to do that. Whatever your hands are.
An important part of the ministry explanation is how much time normally it requires. So if you make a commitment to be a lector, you'll probably be on the schedule once a month or once every 2 weeks. However, we need to put that up front. That your preparation time, is minimal. And when you're done, there's not a whole lot of stuff that you have to do before you leave. Are you responsible for the book? Are you responsible for, signing in, signing out, whatever? Simple explanation with minimal requirements.
And I think they'll probably have some questions. I'm not sure how many people will actually speak up and say something, but you might want to leave some time for some questions. And if there are any, like I know in some of the liturgical ministries, there are some, there's some resources that are available that we can give to people, or we can make copies.
Like if the lector needs to know how to pronounce a name,
We have the lecture workbook too, with Quebec Order this.
Okay. So then, this is just pretty much an outline of what we've been talking about. And it's just a place for you to keep some notes. But while you have the resources here tonight, this is what the very first page. What do you think the top priorities should be at your session? What are the main things that we need to tell them? What are some of the things that the best practices and common mistakes that hopefully will help you think about what are some of the things that we could practice